And the background for this is that back in 2012, you said in your statement, they came to you back then trying to get your customer list, trying to pressure you into giving up your customer list. Now, back then, did you sell the polymer versions of 80% lowers, or were they only...
No, we did not.
Yeah,
and Dustin on the legal issue, he's going to be much better versed on that than I am.
No worries.
I went to college and law school, and
oh, that's right. He's your legal dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Are you a lawyer?
Well, I passed the bar, and I'm waiting on my background to come back. And once that's done, I'll take the oath.
Congratulations. That's a bunch of work, and it sounds like this store could use a good lawyer.
Yeah. And so it worked out.
But what's going on down here, it's a clear-cut case, especially when you receive warning from a law enforcement officer that this is what's happening, and it's because of the message on the sign. Whatever they come up with after that point, it's almost a moot issue.
The thing that needs to be highlighted is just a series of events that took place. I've seen a lot of things online that seem to suggest that the code that the city is citing is legal and or applicable to us. The fact is it is not. And you need to also pay attention to the timeline of events. We put up the sign. Within a couple days, our neighbor told us that uniformed and non-uniformed police officers were taking photographs of the inside of our store as well as our billboard. Within a few days of these officers coming by the store and doing this, an ununiformed officer came into the store, at which I engaged him in conversation. Told
I
him
mentioned
about,
that in the intro.
Yeah, and so you guys did.
No, just when I was on the sidewalk, I just briefly mentioned it to the viewers.
And so he came in and he made it very clear that he had gotten phone calls from the city council that expressed their concern with what the message said, and articulated to me that if perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us, that it might calm them down as to not come after us. Perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us. Perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us. Perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us, that it might calm them down as to not come after us.
These are the same people that pulled off Waco. These are the same people that are have been giving guns to the cartels for years. So we start getting, calls and harassment from them Monday of last week. And they're saying, listen, you give us this stuff or we're going to come in, we're going to raid every single one of your buildings. We're pretty much going to make your life miserable. But if you make this deal with us under the table, underhanded, nobody's going to know about it. Don't worry. Don't worry. We know that your customers, they'll be really mad at you if you give this to us. So don't worry. We won't let anybody know that you worked with us. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Everything's good. We know you're a legitimate business. What they cared about was attempting to make threats against us in order to gain access to private information. I go to the courts and I say, hey, I'm being extorted because someone is trying to come in unjustly and take, this information and take this stuff from us. They came by on Saturday. They went through every building that we had. They grabbed our computer systems. They grabbed our products. They grabbed paperwork and information. What they wanted was they wanted our customer list, and it was a specific product that was made in polymer that's an 80% receiver.
All right, let's talk about your product line real quick. This is selling like crazy.
Absolutely.
Right,
yes.
Dustin?
Yeah.
The 80%.
Yeah,
Can we go over that real briefly and show guys how sick this is?
All right. So this has been around since 1968. The Gun Control Act of 1968 allows private individuals to legally manufacture their own firearms. In doing so, they don't need to be serialized or registered.
Right.
What Aries did is we streamlined the process. We made it easy for you to do it in your house with a drill press. Real simple. And additionally, we coveted more popular models like the AR-15 and 1911 pistol. This is our jig here, one of our jigs, which allows you to...
Let's show them the block first. So this is what they purchase. So you're going to buy either a unfinished or a black lower, and this is what it looks like.
Right, essentially this is a forged lower. This is a mil-spec lower. This is the same thing, but it's been anodized. And then we have our polymer version, which the reason why I have this on the counter, especially the pink one, is to highlight which features are needed for finishing. Okay. So the polymers best highlight what final steps need to be taken to finish this and make it legally a firearm. Essentially, you remove this pocket here, which is the fire control group pocket. which is highlighted on this lower because it's a different color. Additionally, you drill these 3 holes, which is for your hammer pin and your trigger pin and your safety. And then it's a complete functional AR-15 receiver, and it will be legally considered a firearm.
Okay. And you were talking that the jig is how you're going to do that with a drill press at home.
Yeah, and for
with
people,
a milling bit.
Yeah, and most people know what a jig is. But for those of you who don't, essentially the way I describe it is this: a jig is a template which allows you to finish the receiver easily. And this particular one is a single-use jig. This is one of our cheaper jigs, which we're actually going to be discontinuing. But essentially, it provides you with a guide for the 3 holes for your trigger pin, your hammer pin, and your safety hole, and then it gives you steps. So this is the hole that goes all the way through the receiver for your trigger. Right. This is to start the pocket, and then you flip it around and finish the pocket. And you would simply, with an aluminum one, it's best if you use a mill, but you can get away with using a drill press and an end mill bit to finish the receiver. So a lot of people buy that $60 Harbor Freight drill press. You can get one on Craigslist fairly affordably. And it's not that big of an investment.
Right.
If you're a person that has your own CNC machine, it's incredibly easy, and there's plenty of CAD programs online which allow you to plug it in, clamp it down, and hit the button.
Okay.
Yourself.
So this is the $90.
No, that's the $50 single-use jig.
No, I'm looking at your lower here, the black anodized, and then the single-use jig is here. So basically, for 90 or 80 bucks. Or around there, there's an AR-10 one. Well, and you're getting a...
Yeah, our polymers are actually $50, so they're our most affordable model. The next up is our forging, which is essentially a mil-spec forging. Then we have a billet, which is...
Dimitri says you could use a Dremel tool to finish the polymer one, by the way.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
But that's the great thing about those. A couple hours at home, just in your garage, or heck, even sitting down watching TV with a regular Dremel that you bought.
Or writing a letter to the National City.
Or writing a letter to the National City. Absolutely.
The facts, dude. That's what this video is about. The truth. That's what this video is about. We're going to talk about Aries Armor in Oceanside, California. They have a small store in National City, California. I went down there and did a video with them talking about what's going on with their city government. And now they're being threatened and harassed by the federal government. I'm going to start off by reading an article from Examiner.com that talks about what is going on with the ATF, how it's planning on raiding and seizing customer records from Aries Armor, how Aries Armor is standing firm against this action, protecting its customer base against all odds. And then we're going to call Dimitri and talk to him and get an update on all of this, what's going on, and we're going to try to really make our facts correct. Not going to go down some, conspiratorial themes. No, we're just going to say, what are the facts? Are these two things related? What's going on? We'll touch base with Dimitri. First article. Hang with me on this. United States District Court, Southern California District, granted a temporary restraining order against the ATF to stay a planned raid on an Oceanside guns parts supplier and seizing its inventory and customer records. Just so you know that I'm not making this up. I may roll it on a graphic on the screen. That graphic I will do. The planned action was due to the company providing the public with heretofore legal, we talked about that when we interviewed them, 80% lower receivers, unfinished gun parts that must be further processed by the purchasers in order to result in a legally defined firearm. The planned raid on Aries is part of an investigation that resulted in a raid on the receiver manufacturer EP Armory. The order is a result of a motion filed Tuesday by Aries Armor for a temporary injunction directly naming ATF Director B. Todd Jones as a defendant in his official capacity as head of San Diego ATF field office, citing that Aries Armor is likely to succeed on the merits. The ATF's planned seizure violates the Fourth Amendment, and the ATF mischaracterizes the 80% lower receivers as firearms as a pretense to seize customer information, among the reasons. Aries Armor has a standing to sue on behalf of itself and its customers. The motion further claims, noting in the absence of a preliminary injunction, Aries Armor would suffer irreparable harm. Aries Armor is under immediate threat of having their customers' personal information and its legal goods seized by the ATF. The introduction to the motion explained. Agents from the San Diego ATF office are scheduled to arrive, blah, 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 at this place and time, hand over its customer list, turn over roughly $300,000 in inventory of EP Armor Polymer 80% lower receivers. The reason they don't like this is they don't want to have unregistered guns out there. They want to control and eventually confiscate your weaponry. Said meeting was set upon the CEO of Ares Armor, Dimitrios Geerdes, we call him Dimitri, Geerdes, learning that if it did not agree to ATF's term, that all of Ares Armor facilities would be raided and criminal charges would be brought against the Ares Armor staff. If it does not comply with ATF agents' plan to simply seize the private information of thousands of law-abiding Americans along with roughly $300,000 in legal inventory. As shown in the various parts of this motion and its accompanying filings, the ATF is intentionally misinterpreting federal law in an attempt to coerce Ares Armor to hand over the private information of thousands of law-abiding Americans. Immediate judicial intervention is desperately needed to preserve the civil rights of both Ares Armor and its customer base. Along with a motion for TRO, Ares Armor filed a complaint for deprivation of civil rights. They talk about under what grounds, I guess, they're filing this motion. Naming Jones as a defendant, that established the receivers they cannot legally be defined as firearms according to ATF's own determinations, specifying several machining operations that must be performed first and that have not been done on what EP and Ares sell. Ares Armor has established a timeline of events with relevant links, including their CEO's declaration and embedded Fox 5 News report. The problem, according to Fox, is that the receivers show the person building it exactly where to drill, making it easier and cheaper. So let's call Dimitri. He's expecting the call. I just briefly talked to him a little bit ago. Can you hear that?
Hey, Nan, how are you?
Hey, dude. How are you?
Not bad, not bad.
Okay, so with cameras rolling, the viewers are listening to you right now, and I just read the article of what the ATF is doing. Talk to us. And first, let me ask you this, and I'm going to set the ground to perhaps someone who's not into gun rights may run into this video. Are the products which you sell legal?
Yes, absolutely. And the ATF has time and time again issued out determinations that for the AR-15 style of receiver, that the following operations need to still be completed in order for it to not be considered a firearm. And that's your trigger pocket, your safety selector, your trigger hole, your hammer hole, and your trigger through hole. Now, with that said, the lowers that are in question by the ATF right now have all of these operations still left unmilled. And so for every determination letter that the ATF has ever issued out for the AR-15 style receiver, these are not firearms. Minus the one that they just recently issued, which is based on information that is non-factual. The ATF knows their information is non-factual, but they issued the determination anyway and are using this determination to attempt to attain unjust warrants, like the one that they used recently to raid EP Armory in Bakersfield, and then they threatened us with the same unjust raid on our facilities as well.
Why do you feel like they're singling out these? I have my own opinions, but I'm going to pretend I'm a reporter here. 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 Why are they singling out these lowers? What is it about them they don't like?
Well, what it is about them they don't like is that the American people have found a way to arm themselves without registering into Big Brother's little system is what's going on here.
Right.
Now, whether that person is, making a firearm for, hunting, or whether they're making it for defense, or whatever the purpose they're making it for, that's their business. Who they are is their business. It's one of those things. These are not firearms. The ATF is not regulating. They're not the alcohol, tobacco, non-firearms agency.
Yeah.
This is none of their business. 100% none of their business, but they want to be involved in it because they want to have a big list of names, so when they do a gun ban, they can come around knocking on everyone's door.
So people who have purchased these 80% lowers, both the high-quality aluminum ones, we looked at your polymer ones, They bought it under the assumption that, hey, I'm going to be off the radar, and now ATF is rolling into a supplier of said gun parts saying, no, you're not going to be off the radar. We're going to come knocking on your door. True or false?
Absolutely. And what it is, it's an absolute invasion of privacy. And I sat down with an ATF agent who actually, and I told him directly, he said, these are firearms. I said, they are not firearms for every determination you guys have ever issued out in the past.
Right.
The determination that was issued that says they are firearms is based on non-factual information, and you know it. And the guy actually said that he didn't care, and that the only thing that matters is that the determination exists and is passed down from higher. It was comparable to talking to a prison guard in Auschwitz who's just doing his job.
Exactly. That's a good analogy, Dimitri. So it's almost like we'll make the rules up as we go. We really don't care about the rule of law. Do you feel that that's a fair statement on how you're being treated right now?
That's an absolutely fair statement. I mean, if they were a private organization and they made threats towards our, our persons and our property the way that they have, based on absolutely nothing, they would be in jail right now for extortion. I mean, it's 100% a mafia-style tactic to come in and say, this is the information that we want. Give us the information, or we're going to shut down your entire business. We're going to take all your computers. We're going to take this. We're going to do this to you. It's one of those things. They're trying to work an under-the-table deal where nobody, and that's what they even said, nobody will know. It's okay. Give us the list. Nobody's going to know about it. And it has nothing. There's a huge moral dilemma that is involved with something like this. I mean, to hand over a list of names to an agency that's responsible for Waco, to an agency that's responsible for Ruby Ridge,
this guy gets it.
To the same people that are supplying the drug cartels down south.
Yep.
I mean, what should be criminal is handing them any American's information. I mean, to think that agency even still exists after the crimes that they've committed against the American public is, it's silly. Let's put it that way. If there was any other organization, if it was any private organizations, let's say it was a security firm that committed crimes like that, they would be out of existence in half a heartbeat in 2 seconds. But because it's done under the guise of freedom, it's acceptable behavior.
I bet you that Terry would agree with everything you just said. That's a deceased border control agent that got killed with Fast and Furious, with those guns that they pumped across the border. Let me ask you this then. Also in the article it says they're looking to not just give you a cease and desist, stop doing what you're doing. They want to confiscate inventory and they want to level criminal charges. True or false?
They threaten us with criminal charges. I have no idea what they possibly could be talking about because we do absolutely, our business is 100% legitimate. We're not playing any funny games. If someone walks into our store and even asks us, if they can build something full auto or if they can do something illegal, they're asked to leave the premises.
Yeah, of course.
We don't play those games at all. We're a 100% legitimate business. And that was one of the threats that when they were originally making threats and attempting to make that deal, they said, listen, if you hand us the names, you hand us the product, don't worry, we're not going to charge you with anything criminal. We know you're doing this legitimate stuff down there, this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking to myself, you're not going to charge me with anything criminal? What does that even mean? It's Gestapo-style tactics made to intimidate us into handing over private information to the federal government, which is ludicrous at best. I mean, to think that we live in a society where the NSA can keep records of our cell phone conversations and our text messages and everything else, and it's okay. Everybody seems to think that stuff is okay. We are so far away from what we were as a country and what we're supposed to be that it's sad. It's sad. Let's put it that way.
And as a reminder, viewers, you're listening to a combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps who fought for the very rights he's talking about. Their very rights which seem to be, trampled when they talk about every issue he's mentioning. Second Amendment, First Amendment, due process. You're under the gun, dude. Aren't you?
Well, and our response to their threats was, we had to buy ourselves a little bit of time so that we could get support and get some help from the only place that we could think of, which was the judicial system. We have checks and balances in this country for a reason, and so we filed for a temporary restraining order and were granted that. So as of the time being, this private information that is 100% should be protected is safe. The hearing for the preliminary injunction is on the 20th. We're expecting the ATF's response today, and our response will be due on the 17th. The actual hearing is going to be on the 20th to see whether we're going to be able to get a preliminary injunction against them and protect our customers' information.
How did you get the word that a raid on your customers' information and your inventory was being planned? Can you say?
Yes, absolutely. What happened was on Friday of last week, the ATF executed a search warrant against EP Armory, which is the manufacturer of the product in question. Their search warrant, again, is based on false information. They know this information is false, but that didn't stop them. Now, on Monday, through our legal counsel, the ATF actually called us and said, listen, we're about to get a search warrant against you, but, we don't, it's okay. We know you guys are doing the right thing and this, that, and the other. And that's when they started making the threats. If you hand over this information, save us the trouble getting the search warrant, everything's going to be fine.
Okay, now, Dimitri, this goes back to when, because on our video, when I came down and visited with you guys, you mentioned on camera that the ATF had already twisted your arm to get these customers' information, and you held strong there. So this is them amping up the process. Is that a true statement?
I would say that is a factual statement, yes. The first time that I became aware that that this particular agency was interested in our customer list was late 2012, early 2013, during a meeting. It was actually an industry meeting that I had with an ATF agent and several other employees of the ATF that were there. And the agent was coming off very strong-handed towards me. And I straight asked him, and I said, what is it that you want? And he said, well, these things have been sold to a lot of people, and we'd like to know who they were sold to. And it was like one of those things where he was expressing interest in obtaining the information, this private information that he has no business with. No business at all. These are honest, good, hardworking Americans who absolutely, they do not need their privacy invaded by the federal government.
You're not the only seller of these receivers, right? There's several others around the country that are doing this, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
absolutely.
So you're just one. So it sounds to me
Absolutely.
like what they're trying to do is make a statement with Ares Armor of, hey, every gun will be registered in this country, or else. Do you think that's a fair thing to say, Dimitri?
And trying to understand their intentions is difficult, especially because it's from this side of the fence. But again, this is an agency that is responsible for the worst travesties that our country has seen in the past.
Right.
And so, trying to understand their motives for wanting private customer information and information on individuals inside of their own house who are not breaking any laws, who are not doing anything wrong. Who knows the nefarious motives that they could have for wanting to acquire this information.
I think you already nailed it, though, and that is to find these 80% lowers and to contact these people one way or another and say, listen, this was once upon a time a loophole. It is no longer. You will register this gun, and I say for eventual confiscation. That's where it's going.
Especially what's going on in Connecticut right now.
Yep.
I believe the number, what is it, 68% of the law enforcement in Connecticut actually refused to register. And so this is turning into a situation. They're watching what's going on out there. The whole country is watching what's happening in Connecticut.
That's true.
And this is one of those situations where, especially for the citizens that are out there, it's ludicrous to think that a federal agency like this can come in and just threaten you with. And again, it's false information. They know their information is false, and they straight said to me that they didn't care.
Yeah, well, President Obama has ruled that way in the presidency the whole time. He doesn't care. He'll get around it through executive order. And now we see this agency, the ATF, apparently doing the same thing, as they have done in the past. It's like, hey, if there's not a ruling in place, we'll make one later. Don't worry about it. In the meantime, you're coming with us.
Absolutely. And the other thing, too, is you'd mentioned the word loophole, Nunn. And what I would say is a loophole is the laws that are restricting firearm ownership in this country. That is the true loophole. That is, it's a loophole around the Second Amendment. the 80% process is absolutely not a loophole. It is in full compliance with every law that's on the books. And the term loophole implies that someone has found a way to do something illegal through illegal means.
Good point. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and so it's absolutely, what we do is not a loophole. This is 100% in compliance with the law. It's a way for people to enter into firearm ownerships without the government intrusion that is normally associated with it.
And at a lower cost, Dimitri, a lot less cost, right? So it's for people who may not have a lot of money.
The cost is comparable to what you can get out there, but it's also one of those things. The market is pushed down right now, so now is actually a great time to get into firearm ownership. Okay. For those that are don't have a lot of money or whatever it is. The prices are a third of what they were last year.
Okay, fair enough. Let me ask you this. Are these two issues related? So we talked about National City, California, and the City Council trying to pull your sign down, and what you told us because of the content of the sign, and I would say it has a picture of an AR-15, and also it is advertising that 80% lower, and they don't like that. Are these two issues related, first off?
I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, and I do not believe that these two issues are directly related to one another. I believe that they are separate issues. The issue with the sign down in National City is with the local government down there. The ATF has been after our customer list, like I mentioned earlier, for quite some time now, and so I do believe that these are separate issues.
We put up the sign. Within a couple days, our neighbor told us that uniformed and non-uniformed police officers were taking photographs of the inside of our store as well as our billboard. Within a few days of these officers coming by the store and doing this, an ununiformed officer came into the store, at which I engaged him in conversation. Told
I
him
mentioned
about,
that in the intro.
Yeah, and so you guys did.
No, just when I was on the sidewalk, I just briefly mentioned it to the viewers.
And so he came in and he made it very clear that he had gotten phone calls from the city council that expressed their concern with what the message said, and articulated to me that if perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us, that it might calm them down as to not come after us. Perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us. Perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us. Perhaps we kept a log of our customers who purchased items from us, that it might calm them down as to not come after us.
With the National City thing, I'm glad you brought that up. I've seen a few comments of people saying, hey, it's not an issue of what's said on the sign, it's simply an issue of code. To those people who are saying that, the very same picture during the appeal process for that sign down there, in that very same picture showing our sign, there's a second sign on top of the exact same building that we're in, advertising the building next door to us. That second sign is also a rooftop-mounted sign. It has never been permitted. Mm-hmm. It is not grandfathered in as our sign should be. It has, absolutely no right to be there per their municipal or per their code. However, they don't receive a notice, and we do. I find that to be beyond.
Yeah, to me, it's open and shut case.
There's evidence.
Yeah, and I read those comments too. I responded to a couple of them of dudes that said, "Yeah, dude, it's not a First Amendment or Second Amendment issue. It's just Matt, like you just said, Dimitri." And with that, I say, with friends like that, who needs enemies in the gun community? That you can't see when a gun store like yourself is being manipulated and attacked, apparently by both city and federal authorities at this time, because of what they represent. And that is, dude, you sell tactical things. You sell things that can make guns. They don't like it, and they want to shut it down. And along with that too, Dimitri, is apparently those people who said that forget that you were served with a code enforcement regulation visit, weren't you, after that?
Yes, absolutely.
So did they do that to the other business that apparently, or the business that are around you, or is it just you?
Not to my knowledge, they didn't. And something very interesting about this second code enforcement visit. Through our legal counsel, we went ahead and contacted the city, and the lady that was over there actually said to him that, "Oh, this is obviously a mistake. Don't worry about it. We'll get it fixed. I'll give you a call back." She doesn't call back. He calls her back the next day, once she'd had time to realize which business they were talking about.
Yep.
And her story changed dramatically. Dramatically. It went from, it's not a big deal, yeah, this, that, and the other, obviously this was a mistake, to, yeah, you're going to have to do, you know, this process and that process or whatever it is. I mean, it's, especially sitting from the seat that we're in right here, it's so plainly obvious to look at it and see exactly what's going on. And, of course, these people are not stupid. They're not going to come out and say that the issue is because of what's on the sign.
Of course.
Because they know that they'll lose in court. And we've already shown the propensity to take legal action against these types of people who do this. And that they're not idiots. They've got their agenda, but they're not idiots. And so they're going to have their own way around what it is that they're saying, so they can try and, you know, play their legal maneuvering in order to get us to comply, you know, with their wishes.
Right. It's a game, Dimitri. And
absolutely.
What surprises me, going back again to people who were commenting, like we talked about, is that they're so blind to the manipulation that can be played to shut people down like you. Like you say, they're not going to come out and say, hey, we hate guns, we hate you, we're shutting you down. No, what they're going to say is, hey, yeah, we need that sign to be pulled down. This is a code we pulled out from 1946 that you're not in compliance with. And on the games go, which are not enforced, and nor should they be, to be honest. I mean, who freaking cares about the billboard and where it is? I mean, honestly, seriously, I went down to National City, I looked around, it's not like it's like a super awesome neighborhood down there, and they're worried about a billboard being on top of that building. Who gives a flying F, is what I say.
Our shop is probably one of the nicest places in that whole block.
Thank you. It's a rough neighborhood, dude. I was looking for my gun when I was down there, and they're acting like, seriously, they're acting like it's some nice place. But what Dimitri says, viewers, is very, very important, is that they're not going to show their hand that they're anti-Second Amendment. They're going to just pull out every rule in the book, every code enforcement to shut Aries Armor down, or anybody else like them. Welcome to, you know, George Orwell. You know, seriously, that's what we're looking at right here.
Yeah, and I can give you something else, too, especially on, you know, you see this in the gun community all the time. Particularly here in California, we had something called the open carry movement. And a lot of the people in the gun community blamed these people in the open carry movement for the laws that came down getting open carry taken away from us. Well, what I have to say to that is, one, if you lose a right because you exercise that right, it was never a right to you in the first place. Two, if you look at the bigger picture of what happened, the open carry movement was eventually responsible for what's going on right now with turning California into a shall-issue state as opposed to a may-issue state.
That's
so
correct.
The greater good with standing up for your rights and doing the right thing in the face of in the face of incredible odds that insurmountable resistance. If you're in the moral right and you know that what you're doing is the right thing, that's exactly, you got to follow that moral compass and do what you've got in your heart and what you actually believe to be the right thing.
Why are there those in the gun community that are supposedly our allies that will roll into issues like this and not see it for what it is? It just honestly blows my mind, and they will side with the, like I said in a comment, with the attackers, which in this case is city and now federal government. They'll go, well, no, there's nothing going on here. There's nothing to be seen. They remind me of the loyalists in the Revolutionary War. That's who they remind me of, is guys that they'll make excuses to the nth degree as to why, no, there's no injustice going on here. You guys have it all wrong. You're actually, and this is what they say in so many words, they say, well, you're the guys who've brought this upon yourselves. You've done it. And these are supposed gun owners and freedom activists.
Well, most of these people, too, that I see that are like that, they're the kind of people that they sit back from their armchair in front of their computer.
Yep.
If something happens to them, they're the type of person, if somebody comes to their door and comes knocking, they're going to freely hand over their weapons to them. They're going to, do whatever.
Hand over their neighbors' names to them as well.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they're living in a world that is false. And the comforts that are granted to them by the freedoms that are taken away from them, those comforts have more importance to them than actually standing up and doing something and being united as one front and saying, no, this is enough. We're not going to take this anymore. At some point in time in this country, there's got to be there's got to be a point where people say this is enough, and you know, especially with what's going on in Connecticut right now. I mean, we're getting close to being there.
I know.
The fact of the matter is when I served in Iraq, when I came back here, it became very apparent to me that the Iraqis have more personal liberties than we do as Americans, and that is it's humiliating. It's sad. It's humiliating. I mean, this is not the country that we are supposed to be in by any stretch of the imagination. And I can tell you this: the deal I was offered by the ATF, personally, for my own personal safety, was an absolutely fantastic deal. But I'm unwilling to bend my moral fiber and be a part of the system where I know that I would be putting people's lives at risk by handing this list over to them.
Is this a publicity stunt, Dimitri, on any level? I have you arrange this, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. Like the sign thing, is this anything to do with a publicity stunt?
Absolutely not. I want my sign up, and I want to be left alone, just like any other American that's out there. I want to be able to run my business. I want to be left alone. Yeah, I'll pay my taxes. Great, and I do that. I pay my taxes. I want to be left alone, and I want to run my business. The reason that this stuff is coming up is I'm refusing to accept I'm trying not to cuss right now. I apologize.
You can cuss a little bit. Go for it.
Yeah,
I'm
refusing to accept the bullshit that's coming down the pipe. And this stuff is coming down on people every single day. And it's getting to a point, someone's got to say no more. You know, I'm not playing this game with you guys anymore. I'm not going to be threatened, by a federal agency over false information, and coerced into turning over private information that doesn't, it's my customers' information. They have a right to their privacy. It should be criminal of me to even consider turning that information over to the ATF.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of legalities involved with this. You've touched on a couple of them, and I'm definitely not the expert. But to get that information it's hard to do on a legal, from what I know, legally. Google would be a good example. I mean, of course, the government taps into Google lists all the time with subpoenas and that, but I just don't think it's just arbitrary. Hey, you roll in and say, hey, we need this information from you now. It should be that way. It should be nigh impossible to get that information from any company. And I want to go back to something you said, is you just want to be left alone, right? Dimitri?
Absolutely.
So let's go back to Connecticut. What's going on over there? Don't those guys just want to be left alone?
Absolutely.
Just leave them the freak alone. Don't come knocking on my door. Don't bother me.
By asking to be left alone, they're turning them into felons.
That's right.
These people, they want to. That is exactly what they want. They want to live the American dream, which is to be a free man and to live in peace and to be left alone. I want to control my own destiny. I want to live in a country that I'm proud of. I want to live in a country that that's not overbearing. That I don't have men. I don't have to fear men at my door with guns when I'm doing nothing wrong. When I'm doing nothing illegal.
What would you say to a law enforcement officer in Connecticut that chooses to enforce the magazine ban? And I'm just talking completely arbitrarily here, if and when that were to happen. I don't see it happening door to door, but I could see it happening, on a spot check of something like there's a traffic incident, they pull over, they see an unregistered magazine in Connecticut, and the guy decides to slap a charge. What would you say to a police officer that thinks that's a good law to enforce?
Anyone who's sworn an oath, sworn an oath to the Constitution should in no way break that oath. As a man, when you pledge your life to something, when you pledge that you will defend, this concept, this idea, the building block of our entire nation
against enemies, foreign and domestic, Dimitri, foreign and domestic. I'll throw that in.
Absolutely, and if you've sworn that oath, for you to actually enact a law that is contrary to the oath that you have sworn is despicable behavior, and it should be considered treasonous.
Well, I say to the people of Connecticut, stand strong. It's an unconstitutional law, and if law enforcement there, either passively or or in whatever context, decides to enforce this law, I say that's very unwise. Very unwise. It needs to be overturned through all legal means, but Definitely don't go knocking at dudes' doors.
I fully believe that, if they were to actually go knocking on doors and try and do a roundup or anything like that, you would see not only that the civilian community's reaction would be deadly, but I'd be willing to bet that, there is a lot of brave people in law enforcement out there, and you're going to see that there's a lot of true Americans that are going to do the right thing if that comes down to happening.
Well, and your situation kind of adds to the fire, I think, when you have this agency, all-reaching, all-powerful, answer to no one, apparently, ATF, doing what it's doing. It's going to even kind of bring those tensions up higher, which is a bad thing. And I don't blame you, the store. I don't blame the individuals in Connecticut. I blame a government that is out of control and that it has no checks and balances anymore. So I think everything you said about the situation is true.
Well, and hopefully what we can prove here, out here in California with this issue with the ATF, is that there is still some hope left and that there is still checks and balances that exist. I mean, and obviously the evidence that we presented in order to obtain that temporary restraining order was factual, it was solid, and it on its merits, we were granted an actual, temporary restraining order against the ATF in order for the courts to say, hold on a minute, let's figure out what's going on, stop harassing these people, and let's try and figure this out the right way, where you've got a legitimate business owner that you guys are threatening with all sorts of ill will and evil, and there's no need for that. Let's sit down. Let's look at it from let's look at it from a legal standpoint and see what we can do to work this situation out.
Well, I'm a big believer in the rule of law. And I'd much rather be in the court system, as cumbersome as it often is. I'd much rather be in the political system, voting, campaigning, going door to door, knocking to get votes, than the alternative, and that is shooting and civil war. And as a combat veteran in Iraq, you have seen that firsthand when the shooting starts. Which one do you prefer?
As any man should tell you, war should be the very, very last option. It's that's a situation where peaceful means are incredibly important, and that's the reason that our country was supposed to be set up the way it is that so we can resolve these sorts of issues peacefully without it turning into bloodshed and the travesties that come along with that.
I agree. And that's how I feel too, is that we exhaust every political and legal means that we possibly can to defend and restore our rights. And that being said, though, the gun is the free man's ultimate voting device. True or false?
I would say Thomas Jefferson would definitely agree with you. And when it comes down to it, let's use the example of Germany. Hitler was freely elected into his position.
That's true.
The German people would have been more well within their rights as human beings to rise up against him.
Yep. All right. Well, where do you go from here? So, if this ATF thing goes south, what happens? That the temporary restraining order is lifted, they go ahead and they do the raid, they seize your inventory, and then they put you with charges? Is that something you could see happening?
It is a possibility, and I'm sure they'll make me out to be, a crazy person or some sort of who knows what sort of stuff they'll try and pin on me to discredit what it is that I'm saying. But I can definitely see that happening. It is a possibility. I'm praying that the court system will do the right thing and protect us. Which is also another reason for the publicity right now, is I need people to know that I'm not an insane person. Whatever if it does go badly, whatever they're going to make me out to be, I am not that person. Mm-hmm. And I've seen them do this before with people like Charles Dyer and other things like that. And so there is a certain level of reservation that I have in going into this particular battle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is, these people do not act in a way that is ethical. They do not act in a moral way. Their track record, their history has shown them to be, evil, nefarious people. Right. And who knows what could happen. But the other thing is we are trying to get a hold of representatives, of our congressmen, of anybody who can actually help with this situation. I don't have the phone numbers right in front of me right now, but we're trying to get hold of people like Daryl Issa. We're trying to get hold of people like Roger
text me everything, or have Stephanie text it to me, and I'll put it in the sidebar, and maybe I'll put it in banner on the video. So if there's anybody who lives in California, they can contact them. And let's go back to my video, Republican Civil War, talking about the precinct solution, where you put into place legislators in your local and state governments who, when this comes to their attention, and national and federal government too, they can help. But when you have people who sit on the sidelines and bitch and moan and don't participate in the political process, this is a crap that goes on right here. Let me say, I want to end by saying this too. With the threat of ATF holding over your business, I think you have a case, and this is just from me to you, to say that they are hurting you financially, because now your customer's going, hey, Aries Armor's under indictment. I don't want my personal information being leaked. Do you worry about that? And that people are just like, well, I don't want to purchase anymore.
Absolutely, and that is a huge concern.
That's thousands and thousands of dollars they're costing you right now.
That is an absolutely huge concern. And it's one of those issues where I think that we have appropriately demonstrated that we are not willing to play the game. We're not going to turn over private information willfully. This is one of those things we have. We've got the first step of this completed already. We do have a temporary restraining order against them. We are working night and day to protect that information, and that is our sole goal in life.
Well, let me say too, I think, let's say a dude ordered 2 receivers from you. And again, I'm not the legal expert, but knowing what I know, I think the ATF would have a really hard road to hoe to say, hey, we're going to come and get that gun. It's an unregistered piece of metal. They have no legal standing whatsoever.
Yeah, and I can tell you this is not having legal standing to do something hasn't stopped them from threatening me with a raid.
Yeah, good point. Good point. How much money are you spending on this battle, dude?
Even more now? We just retained, and I can't say exactly who it is, but we did retain a fairly prominent law firm. So far, we've spent about $20,000 in the first week.
Holy freak. TMPers, support Aries Armor. Continue to buy from Aries Armor. They need your support. This is a case study in freedom, I think, Dimitri. A case study in what happens to a small pro-Second Amendment business and individual when you have rogue government agencies seek to shut him down because what he sells is not deemed politically correct. True or false, Dimitri?
That's absolutely true. It's one of these situations where if you stand up and you make waves, there are consequences apparently for speaking your mind and for being open and for supporting these sorts of causes, and that's absolutely true.
All right. Well, I hope everything turns out for you. I pray everything turns out for you. TMPers, look in the information. Contact us, congressman. I think on the issue of the National City billboard sign, I think we're good on that one, Dimitri, as far as people needing to do stuff.
Yes. And the next step of that, we are not dropping the ball on that. We've got a separate legal team for that now, too, that will be going to federal court. We have every intention of filing suit very soon on that one. And with that said, too, if you're going to be contacting a congressman or anything like that, I do ask that you be very respectful. If you talk to one of their aides, don't yell at them. Don't be rude. Don't be, don't be that
don't
guy
be
on the other end
irate.
of the phone. Be very respectful with these people.
Yeah, people will shut you down when you're irate. They don't want to hear that. No one wants to get their face yelled at. So be respectful, all that stuff. This is a Nut and Fancy project. We wish the best for Aries Armor. Dimitri, I'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks so much, Nat. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.